Every day you hold it together, but deep down something's slipping. You handle the pressure, meet the deadlines, and show up for everyone else. But when it gets quiet, when the noise fades, there's this dull weight in your chest that says, you're tired and you don't know why. It's not a weakness. It's not a failure. It's the cost of surviving without structure, of living without something unshakable beneath your feet. That something is discipline. It's not a forced routine, not rigid rules, but the kind of mental discipline that gives your mind clarity, your emotional boundaries, and your soul space to breathe. Because growth isn't a spark, it's a choice, repeated in silence, sharpened in solitude, and rooted in stillness. This isn't about chasing perfection, it's about becoming solid, grounded, free. This video will guide you through the Stoic path to mental discipline. The same principles that built warriors, thinkers, and leaders who faced storms without flinching. If life has been loud lately, step into the silence. If you've felt stretched thin, it's time to return to your core. Subscribe if you're ready to rebuild from within, and drop a comment below. What part of you needs more discipline right now? Let's start there. The rest will follow. 1. Discipline is what you do when no one's watching. True discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't seek praise. It doesn't post proof. It lives in silence when there's no audience, no spotlight, no applause, only the raw presence of you, your mind, and your next decision. That's where everything begins. Not with motivation, not with emotion, but with the choices you make in the moment. No one sees. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's external, rules, routines, systems, imposed from the outside. But the most powerful form of discipline is internal. It's not about being forced to do something. It's about deciding to do what's right without anyone telling you to. It's about training your thoughts, your reactions, and your habits to serve your values, even when nobody's watching, and especially when nobody's watching. Why does that matter? The real battles don't happen when others are watching. They happen in the dark. At 5 a.m., when the alarm goes off, comfort whispers, stay. At 11:47 p.m., when your mind craves distraction, but your soul craves clarity. At lunchtime, when you can numb yourself by scrolling, you choose stillness instead. These aren't dramatic moments, but they are decisive. They are the quiet places where inner growth is born. And that's what Stoicism teaches us, that freedom, focus, and peace don't arrive by accident. They're earned, moment by moment, choice by choice. You don't control outcomes, but you can control yourself. You can train your discipline like a muscle, slowly, deliberately, daily. You can teach your mind to stop chasing stimulation and start embracing self-direction. That's where true power begins. The Stoics weren't warriors of noise, they were warriors of silence. Epictetus reminded us that no man is free unless he masters himself. But self-mastery doesn't show up in grand gestures. It shows up in the decision to read instead of scroll, to breathe instead of exploding. Walking when sitting is easier. It's the small, quiet acts of self-leadership that build something unshakable within you, something no one can see but everyone can feel when you walk into a room. Because mental discipline is energy. It radiates. You don't need to explain it or announce it. When you have it, it speaks for you. It shows up in your posture, in your calm, in your ability to say no without guilt and yes without doubt. And most of all, it shows up in how you carry yourself when life gets loud. That's why moments of solitude are sacred. They're not empty, they're formative. Every time you show up for yourself when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unseen, you're laying another brick in your internal foundation. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't fold under pressure, because you've already learned how to stand firm in silence. It's not about being perfect. It's not about winning every battle. It's about becoming consistent enough that even when you fail, you come back stronger. You miss a day, you start again, you lose your temper, you reflect, you give in to distraction, then return with deeper focus. That's mental toughness, not perfection, but persistence. People often ask how to build confidence. The answer isn't louder words or better images. It's quite consistent. When you do what you said you'd do, even when no one is checking, you begin to trust yourself. That trust builds integrity, and integrity builds an unshakable presence. You no longer need validation from others because your actions align with your principles, and that creates a kind of inner peace the world can't take away. So the next time you're alone and no one will know what you choose, remember, that's exactly when it matters. That's the moment that reveals who you're becoming. Will you give in to impulse, or will you choose alignment? Will you trade long-term strength for short-term relief, or will you stay the course? The world is full of distractions, temptations, and noise. But the one thing no one can take from you is the discipline you cultivate in solitude. That's your fortress. That's your edge. That's your power. And the truth is, no one will applaud you for turning off the TV to meditate. No one will cheer when you skip the scroll to the journal. No one will notice when you wake early to train your mind. But you will. You will feel the shift, you will sense the clarity, you will carry yourself differently, and that difference will compound. Because growth isn't found in the big things. It's hidden in the small, invisible choices that stack, layer by layer, into the person you quietly become. So start there, in the silence. That's where the work is. That's where you meet yourself. And that's where your new life begins. 2. Inner strength is built one small decision at a time. You won't wake up stronger tomorrow because you dreamed big tonight. You won't become disciplined because you wrote goals in a journal. Strength, real, grounded, inner strength is not built in a single decision. It is earned slowly, privately, through 1,000 tiny choices that no one applauds and no one sees. You become solid by what you repeatedly choose in silence. We tend to chase breakthroughs. At that moment, we finally snap and say, enough. That day, we hit the gym, quit our jobs, and cut ties. But what truly changes a man is what he chooses after the adrenaline wears off, when no one is watching, and quitting would be easier than continuing. That's when it counts. That's when the decision is real. It's easy to change when you're inspired. It's harder to stay the course when you're tired, tempted, and alone with your excuses. Stoic philosophy reminds us that character is not revealed in one act of courage. It's revealed in what you tolerate, what you repeat, and what you let slide. One moment of patience instead of anger. One walk instead of mindless scrolling. One conversation you initiate instead of avoiding. These decisions don't feel heroic, but they are. Each one shifts your direction, 1 degree at a time, and over time that shift becomes identity. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to grow. You need to get serious about your next decision. Because growth isn't distant, it's immediate. It's here in the next choice you make. Will you react impulsively or pause? Will you avoid the discomfort or lean into it? Will you do what's easy or what builds you? You already know which choice leads to peace, but only discipline can get you to choose it consistently. This is where inner strength begins. Not in knowing what to do, but in choosing it over and over again, especially when it costs you. Every time you choose discomfort for the sake of your values, you earn clarity. Every time you delay pleasure for the sake of discipline, you reinforce trust in yourself. These aren't just actions, they're anchors. You're building something beneath the surface that nothing external can break. It's tempting to think strength comes from big moments, standing up in conflict, pushing through pain, sacrificing for others. But big moments mean nothing if you don't control the small ones. It's in the micro decisions. Getting up when your body begs for sleep, walking away when your pride wants revenge, turning off the noise when your mind craves escape. Each of those is a brick. Each one builds the fortress you carry inside. If you want to be respected, stop waiting to impress people. Start respecting your own words. When you say you'll wake up early, and you do, your soul hears it. When you say you'll meditate and you actually sit through the silence, your mind remembers it. Self-respect doesn't come from image, it comes from follow-through. And the more you follow through on small things, the stronger your presence becomes. You've probably felt it before, that quiet confidence in someone who doesn't need to explain themselves. They're calm, collected, and decisive. Not because life is easy, but because they've made it a habit to show up for themselves every day. You can feel the weight of their self-discipline in how they speak, listen, and act. They didn't build that presence in one day. They built it one decision at a time. And so can you. This isn't a race. It's a rhythm. and the rhythm is yours to set. It's in the choice to breathe instead of argue. It's in writing when your mind is scattered. It's in walking away from gossip. It's in finishing the work when motivation fades. Small, forgettable things. That's where the real transformation lives, because anyone can be strong when they feel like it. But becoming strong when you don't feel anything at all, that's uncommon. So the question isn't, how do I change my life? The question is, what will I choose right now? Will you make one small decision that your future self will thank you for? Or will you stay trapped in the cycle of waiting for the right mood, the right moment, and the right motivation? Growth doesn't come when the timing is right. It comes when the choice is hard. It comes when you do what aligns with your principles, even when every part of you wants to retreat. That's when you earn strength. That's when you build the kind of mindset that doesn't need approval, attention, or external force. You become accountable to something deeper, your own potential. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You just need to prove one thing to yourself, that when it matters, you choose the right thing, not the easy one. And if you can do that once, you can do it again, and again, and again, until it becomes who you are, not just what you do. Don't underestimate the power of one small decision. That's where every transformation starts. That's where every great life is built. Quietly, consistently, without applause. 3. Master your reactions. Master your life. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your child talks back after a long day. A coworker blames you publicly for something you didn't do. In each of those moments, your mind ignites, your body tenses, and a response races to your lips. But what you do next, how you react, says everything about the strength you've built or the weakness you've ignored. You can't control the world, but you can control yourself. And the one who controls his reactions doesn't just survive chaos, he shapes his life through it. Most people react based on habit. They let instinct take the wheel, and instinct rarely chooses wisely. It chooses ego, it chooses defense, it chooses the fastest way to feel better, even if it causes long-term damage. But the Stoics taught us something different. They taught us that freedom begins where impulse ends, and that freedom, inner freedom, can only exist when you put a pause between stimulus and response. Life is unpredictable. You will be misunderstood, you will be insulted, you will be hurt, embarrassed, challenged, ignored. The question is never, will this happen? The question is, when it does, who do I become in response? That's where your character is tested. Not when things go well, not when you're praised, but when the storm hits, you're forced to choose. Explode, escape, or stay centered. There's power in that pause. A single breath can separate you from regret. A 1-second delay can save you from saying what can't be unsaid. The world doesn't teach this. It rewards speed, volume, and dominance. But Stoicism teaches clarity, stillness, and control. And if you want real mental strength, you don't get there by mastering others. You get there by mastering yourself, especially in moments that hurt. Take something familiar. Picture a man, let's call him David, working in a team under pressure. One afternoon, during a critical meeting, his supervisor raises her voice and blames him for a delay he didn't cause. The room falls silent. All eyes are on him. He feels the heat rising in his chest. His jaw tightens. His mind races with comebacks. He wants to defend himself, push back, and prove his point. But instead, he exhales. He straightens his back. He pauses. Then he calmly says, "I hear the concern. I'll follow up and clarify the timeline right after this." He doesn't flinch. He doesn't escalate. And in that moment, he earns something much more valuable than a verbal victory. He earns respect from others and from himself. That kind of response doesn't happen by accident. It comes from practice, from building emotional control the same way you build muscle, through resistance. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about separating what you feel from what you choose to do. Anger is natural, so is fear. But acting on them without reflection, that's weakness dressed as power. Stoic philosophy isn't emotionless, it's emotionally disciplined. And that matters because your reactions shape your reputation, your relationships, and your reality. If you always respond with anger, people will tiptoe around you. If you always fold under pressure, people will trust you less. But when you become the one who stays calm under fire, who chooses reason over reactivity, you gain something rare, command over your mind in a world that's lost its own. You may not be able to control what others say, but you can control what lives in your mind after they speak. You can carry their insult for days, or you can drop it in seconds. You can carry their judgment into your sleep, or you can dismiss it before you walk away. Inner strength means choosing your mental state with intention, not letting others choose it for you. That's not just mental toughness, that's peace, that's sovereignty. That's how you stop being a prisoner to people's words and become the architect of your own energy. So how do you practice this? You start small. The next time someone interrupts you, don't react, just notice. When someone questions your ability, don't defend, just observe. When someone lies about you, don't rush to prove the truth. Let silence speak. Let calmness do the heavy lifting. Your mind will resist this at first. It will scream, fight back, but you're not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts to act on. That's the Stoic way. And it's how you begin to build a mind that isn't hijacked by every spark of irritation. This doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you speak when it matters, not to win, but to bring clarity. Not to lash out, but to protect your values. The strongest man in the room is not the loudest. He's the one who knows when to speak and when to hold the line, when to act and when to observe, when to walk away and when to stand still like a mountain that doesn't move. The world will keep testing you. People will keep provoking you. But every test is an opportunity. Every insult is a training session. Every trigger is a chance to choose power over impulse. That's not a weakness. That's wisdom. And here's the truth you already know but rarely live. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. And that response defines you. Not the event, not the insult, not the pain. The choice. Your choice. That's where your power lies. So the next time you're faced with disrespect, unfairness, or chaos, pause. Not because you're afraid, but because you've trained yourself to remain still when the world shakes. That's how you rise above the noise. That's how you lead yourself first. That's how you master your reactions, and in doing so, master your life. 4. Not every feeling deserves an action. You felt angry, you felt hurt, you felt betrayed, but that doesn't mean you had to yell. It doesn't mean you had to post. It doesn't mean you had to destroy what you spent years building just because a wave hit your chest. Feelings are not commands, they're signals. And the strongest people are not those who feel less, but those who act only when it's worth it. Modern life has sold you the idea that expressing emotions is always healthy. But expression without wisdom is just a reaction. And the reaction, when left unchecked, destroys more than it heals. You can feel angry without lashing out. You can feel disappointed without shutting down. You can feel jealousy, shame, frustration, and still choose peace. That choice, made in private, defines your character far more than anything you say when emotions hijack your mind. The Stoics understood this before psychology gave it a name. Emotions are like the weather, they pass. But if you act in the middle of the storm, you often break things you can't rebuild. The question is not, what do I feel? The question is, what deserves a response? Because not every feeling does. Some feelings need space, not attention. Some feelings just need to be noticed, acknowledged, and released, without turning into action that sets you back. Think about it. How many arguments have you started just because you were tired? How many relationships have you strained because of something that felt real for 10 minutes but meant nothing the next morning? The cost of untrained emotion is often invisible at first, but over time, it corrodes your stability. Every overreaction is a withdrawal from your peace. Every emotional impulse you obey without pause is a vote for chaos over clarity. This isn't about suppression, it's about direction. A Stoic doesn't deny emotion, he studies it, he questions it, he sits with it until it reveals something deeper than the surface pain. You feel left out. Why? You feel disrespected. By what? You feel sad. What's beneath it? The emotional discipline we need is not numbness, but awareness. And awareness leads to power. Power to delay a reaction, to breathe, to choose wisely. Let's bring this into real life. Imagine you're sitting in your car, and your teenager walks in, slams the door, rolls their eyes, and says something sharp. Your body tenses. You're ready to fire back. But then you pause. You realize they just came home from a long day. Maybe something happened, maybe not, but you choose silence. Not out of fear, but out of control. You wait a few minutes. Later that night, you ask them about their day, and the truth spills out. Not anger, but exhaustion, loneliness, fear. You didn't react, and because of that, you opened a door. That's discipline. That's leadership. That's maturity. Your emotional state isn't fixed, it moves like the tide. And if you lash out at every high or collapse at every low, you spend your life cleaning up the mess your emotions made. Stoicism teaches you to ride the wave, not become it. That one breath, that sacred pause can save your job, your family, your dignity. It can save the future version of you from having to say, "I'm sorry," or something the present version of you didn't stop. The people who impress you the most are not the ones who dominate others. They're the ones who dominate themselves. Who stays calm when others rage, who listens when others interrupt, who observe when others attack. That's the power you can't fake. That's a presence you can't manufacture. It comes from hours, days, and years of choosing not to act on every passing emotion. There's a reason why Marcus Aurelius journaled nightly. He didn't just want to vent, he wanted to examine, to reflect, to ask himself, what did I allow to control me today? That's a question worth asking, because the only true control you ever have is over how you respond. The rest is noise. The rest is ego. In a world where everyone wants to be heard instantly, the rarest strength is stillness. You don't need to prove your point the moment you feel misunderstood. You don't need to post your outrage. You don't need to correct every insult. You don't need to explain yourself every time you're triggered. You can just be solid, present, unshaken. A mountain doesn't tremble because the wind howls. It remains. You don't grow by reacting to everything. You grow by learning which feelings deserve your energy and which are just passing shadows trying to pull you away from your center. You already know the cost of impulsive emotion. It's in the conversations that went too far, the messages you wish you had never sent. The silence came too late. But that can change. Not all at once, but one pause at a time. One decision is to hold your tongue. One breath to stay seated. One choice is to let the emotion rise and fall without letting it drag your peace down with it. Emotional discipline is not a trick. It's a practice. It's choosing wisdom over impulse. Not because it's easy, but because you're tired of being ruled by waves. And here's the truth. No one remembers the emotion you felt. They remember the damage it left behind, or the calm you brought into chaos. So the next time the anger rises, the tears burn, the heart races, wait. Let the feeling pass, let the storm move, and when it does, you'll still be standing. That's who you are becoming. Not someone who denies emotion, but someone who no longer lets it lead. 5. Avoidance kills growth. Face it head on. What you avoid does not disappear. It waits, quietly, patiently, and while it waits, it grows. Every responsibility you push aside, every fear you pretend isn't there, every wound you choose not to look at, it doesn't vanish. It expands. In the silence, in the dark, until one day it stands tall enough to block your path forward. Avoidance feels safe, it feels easy. It whispers that you'll deal with it later, that the timing's not right, that other things matter more right now. But underneath that ease is erosion. Erosion of clarity, erosion of courage, erosion of the very mental discipline you need to move forward in life. Stoic philosophy doesn't demand you fight everything, but it demands you face it, and there's a difference. To fight is to resist, but to face something with calm, steady eyes is to reclaim your power. Avoidance, on the other hand, is the slow surrender of that power, one excuse at a time. Growth requires friction. But friction only comes when you lean into what's hard, not when you escape it. Mental resilience isn't built in comfort, it's built in confrontation. And not just confrontation with the world, but with your own hesitation, your fears, your procrastination. The things you avoid aren't random. They are the map. They show you where the work is, where you're still reactive, where you still choose comfort over clarity. It's easy to confuse stillness with stagnation, but stillness, real, conscious stillness, faces the truth. It asks questions. It stays present. Stagnation avoids. It numbs. It distracts. It waits for something to change without ever taking a step. But no one changes by waiting. No one grows by ignoring what hurts. If your instinct is to avoid it, that's the very thing you need to face. You already know what you've been avoiding. You feel it every time you're quiet. You think about it when the day ends, when no one else is around, when the noise dies down, and you're left alone with the question you keep dodging. But there's no hiding from yourself. You can cover it up with noise, but silence brings it back. That's not a weakness. That's the truth trying to get your attention. And the longer you push it away, the louder it gets. Not outside. Inside. Stoicism demands clarity. These are not perfect answers, just honest awareness. You can't control what life throws at you, but you are always responsible for what you avoid. The weight you carry isn't just the burden of life. It's the weight of unmade decisions, unsaid words, and unread emotions. Growth doesn't begin with solving. It begins with facing. Facing the phone call you've delayed. Facing the conversation you're afraid of will make you uncomfortable. Facing the truth that you've become someone who waits. And every moment you wait, you move further from the strength you're capable of building. The mind is built for avoidance. That's how it protects itself. But protection isn't the same as progress. The more you avoid it, the more life becomes something that happens to you, not something you're shaping. The Stoics didn't chase pain, but they also didn't hide from it, because hiding makes the thing you fear more powerful, and facing it makes you more powerful. There is no peace in pretending. Pretending you're okay, pretending it doesn't bother you, pretending you'll get to it tomorrow. Peace is born from facing what's difficult, fully, openly without dramatizing it, but also without running from it. What you avoid becomes your master. What you face becomes your training ground. And here's the part most people miss. Your mind already knows the truth. The delay, the distraction, the hesitation, they don't erase the reality. They just weaken your ability to meet it. The longer you avoid it, the smaller you feel. The smaller you feel, the more you avoid. And so the cycle tightens until you're stuck, not because of the world, but because of your unwillingness to look it in the eye. But there's a different path, one that begins the moment you stop waiting. The moment you say, I'm ready to face what I've been ignoring, not with emotion, not with panic, but with quiet clarity. You name the thing, you write it down, you sit with it, you plan the next small action, and then you take it. Not all at once, just one step. That step breaks the cycle. That step reclaims your identity. That step teaches your mind, I don't run. And once you stop running, everything changes. Your body feels lighter, your breath is deeper, your sleep cleaner. Why? Because you're no longer carrying ghosts. You're no longer dragging things behind you. You're walking into them, through them, past them. And when you live that way, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the voice inside that once held you back. That voice weakens because you've shown it that silence doesn't scare you anymore. That discomfort doesn't control you anymore. That clarity means more to you than comfort ever could. Avoidance is a trap disguised as relief, but the cost is too high. Every moment you avoid is a moment you could have grown. Every truth you dodge is a lesson left unlearned, and every fear you delay is strength left unclaimed. So face it. Whatever it is, name it, stare it down, and walk straight into it. You won't be destroyed. You'll be defined. That's how the Stoic grows, not by waiting for courage, but by choosing to face what others run from. And once you do that, even once, you'll never go back to avoidance again. Because you'll realize you were never afraid of the thing itself. You were only afraid of facing it without clarity. And now that you have it, you're free. 6. Mental discipline is the root of emotional freedom. Real freedom doesn't arrive when you get what you want. It arrives when your emotions no longer control what you do. That kind of freedom isn't found in letting go. It's found in holding steady. Not by chance. Not by mood, but by mental discipline. Daily, deliberate, repeatable. The world tells you to follow your heart. But a heart without order becomes chaos. A mind without training becomes a trap. You don't become free by indulging every feeling. You become free by learning how to hold it, see it, and let it pass without bowing to it. And that ability to stay calm while emotion burns through you isn't given. It's built. Take it one moment at a time. Stoic philosophy doesn't promise an easy life, but it offers something more valuable than comfort: clarity. Clarity is born from structure. In the same way muscles grow from resistance, the mind grows from restraint. You don't wake up emotionally strong. You train for it. You set rules for yourself. You honor boundaries. You watch your own thoughts with precision. You step back before you speak. You delay before you decide. Over time, you create a space inside that feelings can't control. It's tempting to think emotional freedom comes from peace on the outside. Fewer problems, less conflict, more understanding. But Stoicism flips that upside down. Peace doesn't come when the world calms down. It comes when you do. When your inner structure is so strong, it holds even when life pulls at every edge of it. And that structure comes from mental discipline. Do you want to be calm in conflict? Then you have to train your mind to pause before defending. Do you want to feel grounded when everything's uncertain? Then you have to create order inside, even when everything outside is in chaos. That order doesn't require perfection. It requires practice, like choosing silence when you want to speak, like choosing a walk when you want to scream, like choosing reflection instead of reaction. These are small acts, but each one is a thread in the rope that anchors your soul. Discipline is not cold, it's not mechanical, it's not robotic, it's sacred, because it protects you from being a slave to impulse. It gives you space between feeling and action, and in that space, you reclaim control. The Stoics didn't deny emotion, they just refused to let it rule them. They faced pain, insult, and betrayal, not by shutting down, but by staying intact, not controlled by fear, not dragged by rage, fully present, fully aware, and still steady. Imagine living like that, waking up and not being at the mercy of the first bad message you read, walking through a tough day without becoming the storm, knowing that sadness might knock, but you don't have to let it in. That's not detachment. That's clarity. That's emotional sovereignty. And it begins where most people stop, in the discipline of your thoughts. Everything you feel is real, but not everything you feel should lead. Emotions are signals, not instructions. You can listen to them without obeying them. That separation, that ability to feel full and still choose wisely, is the mark of someone who's trained their mind like a warrior trains their body, with order, with limits, with purpose. This is why mental discipline matters so deeply. It's the silent structure holding your emotional life in place. Without it, you spiral, you snap, you chase relief instead of progress. But with it, you hold, you endure, you choose clarity over comfort. And through that choice, you access something few people ever touch, emotional freedom that doesn't depend on circumstances. You won't feel in control every day. You won't always be calm. But when discipline becomes your default, you'll return to stillness faster. You'll bounce back from anger quicker. You'll respond to fear with focus, not panic. That return, that reset, is the difference between someone who's reactive and someone who's rooted, between someone who survives and someone who builds, between someone who blames and someone who leads. Mental discipline isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about separating your emotions from your identity. You are not your frustration. You are not your sadness. You are not your anxiety. You are the one who notices those things. And if you can notice them without becoming them, you've already won half the battle. So what do you do with this? You simplify. You create habits that bring your mind into order. You wake up early, not to impress anyone, but to show your mind that you lead. You pause before replying, not to seem wise, but to ensure you are. You journal before bed, not to vent, but to train reflection. None of these are dramatic, but over time, they add up to something unshakable, a calm center, built through repetition, that emotion cannot overtake. The more disciplined your mind becomes, the more emotional room you have to feel without breaking, to hurt without crumbling, to doubt without quitting. That's a real strength, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of order, even in the middle of it. So when you ask, how do I stop being so reactive? The answer isn't about emotions. It's about discipline, not just daily tasks, but inner order. When your mind has limits, your emotions can move through you without wrecking what matters most. Freedom isn't found in doing whatever you feel. It's found in knowing that you could, but you won't. Because you've built something stronger than reaction. You've built a mind that chooses, not one that collapses. That's emotional freedom. And it always begins with mental discipline. 7. Journaling is quiet self-confrontation. I started journaling 2 years ago, not as a productivity hack, not to be poetic, I began because I could no longer afford to lie to myself. My thoughts were scattered, my focus weak, my emotions louder than reason. I didn't need motivation, I needed clarity, and I found it in the quiet discipline of writing things down. Journaling isn't about beautiful sentences. It's not about sounding wise. It's about confronting what's real. And most of the time, what's real isn't pretty. You see your excuses. You meet your contradictions. You reread your own patterns. You can't hide behind charm or tone or distractions. On paper, the truth stands still. You finally see who you've been pretending to be and where you've been avoiding responsibility for your own life. That's what makes journaling such a powerful practice of mental discipline. It forces you to slow down your thoughts, to name what you feel, to examine what you fear, and in doing so, it reveals what you can no longer ignore. A scattered mind becomes organized when it has to explain itself. A reactive heart becomes calmer when it gets a chance to speak without being judged. Writing is not escape, it's exposure. And in that exposure, you grow. In Stoic practice, this is not optional, it is essential. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for anyone else to read. He wrote them to survive himself, to hold himself accountable, to remind himself of who he wanted to be when emotions clouded reason. That is what journaling can become for you. Not a diary, but a dialogue. Not an outlet, but a mirror. And not just an exercise, but a form of training. Mental clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from structure, from ritual, from giving your thoughts a container so they don't flood your mind. And when your thoughts live on the page, they stop haunting you. They become visible. Once visible, they become manageable. You see what needs to be addressed. You stop spinning the same internal monologue over and over again. You make room for focus. You build emotional control, not by suppressing what you feel, but by understanding it. I don't journal every day to feel better. I journal to stay sharp, to track where I'm drifting, to catch myself when I start chasing comfort instead of purpose. It's easy to lose track of yourself in the noise of life, but the page never lies. If your words are weak, your discipline has slipped. If your thoughts are scattered, your mind isn't anchored. If you can't write clearly, you're not thinking clearly. And clarity is everything. You can't lead yourself without it. You can't build emotional strength without it. You can't develop a daily mental routine if you don't even know where your energy is leaking. Journaling exposes all of that. You see what you keep avoiding. You notice what you always complain about but never change. You confront the lies you repeat to yourself in silence. That confrontation is painful, but it's powerful. Do you want to become stronger? Start by writing down exactly where you are weak, not for judgment, but for understanding. You can't fix what you won't face, and you won't face what you refuse to name. The act of writing gives you that control. It transforms inner chaos into structured reflection. That's not romantic. That's real power. That's how you sharpen the mind that must carry you through the hardest days. Some nights, I sit with my pen and nothing comes, but I wait. I stay in that silence, because even the emptiness speaks. It tells me I'm not avoiding the work. It reminds me that I'm still showing up. That's what builds the edge, the discipline to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. You don't always need answers, but you do need to ask better questions, and journaling teaches you how to ask, slowly, honestly, repeatedly. What am I avoiding? Where did I lie to myself today? Did I live by impulse or intention? Where did I give my power away? These are not casual reflections. They are mental drills. Every time you write them, your focus sharpens, your self-awareness deepens, your reactions soften, and your decisions grow stronger. Because writing teaches you not only what to think, but how to think. We live in a world addicted to noise. But your strength is forged in silence, in the pages no one will ever read, in the words that expose your fears, your flaws, your hidden ambition. And the more honestly you write, the more clearly you walk. You don't need more motivation, you need more truth, you need more structure, you need more stillness. And that begins by writing, even if it's only one line, even if it's ugly, even if it's uncomfortable. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait until your life makes sense. Write anyway. Write because your mind needs order. Write because your emotions need space. Write because no one else will do it for you. Mental discipline is not loud. It is built in the quiet repetition of choices like this. And journaling is one of the most powerful tools you can have. Start tonight. Open a blank page, ask yourself one hard question, answer it without filters, and keep going. That's how you confront yourself. That's how you stop drifting. That's how you start building a mind you can trust. One thought, one sentence, one honest line at a time. 8. Growth happens in the moments no one applauds. No one claps when you choose silence over anger. No one sees you putting the phone down to stay present. No one notices when you wake up before dawn, not for a reward, not for recognition, but because you promised yourself you would. And yet, it's in these exact moments, unseen, uncelebrated, uncomfortable, that you truly grow. That is where the character is forged. We've been trained to associate progress with performance, as if growth only counts when someone is watching. But real development doesn't happen on the stage. It happens in the dark. It happens in the repetition, in the discipline, in the choices you make when nobody else will ever know you made them. That's where your identity is sculpted, not by external applause, but by internal alignment. Stoic philosophy has always pointed toward this truth. The only recognition that matters is the one you give yourself through honest, consistent action. Your self-respect isn't built on what others see. It's built on what you do in silence. The way you carry yourself when there's no one to impress. The way you stick to the path when temptation whispers easy exits. Growth is not glamorous, it's grounded, and the deeper it is, the quieter it becomes. People often ask, how do I become stronger? Expecting some breakthrough moment or motivational surge. But inner strength doesn't explode. It accumulates. Slowly, through small, deliberate decisions made again and again. The mental toughness to stick with your plan, even when no one checks in. The emotional control to stay kind when no one returns the favor. The personal integrity to say no to shortcuts, even when they promise faster results. That's why the quiet moments matter more than you think. Because they're not distractions from your growth. They are your growth. They train your discipline, test your patience, and reveal your true values. Anyone can act with purpose when they're being watched. Few can stay committed when the spotlight's gone. But that's the Stoic standard. Self-command with or without an audience. In a world that feeds off attention, stillness becomes a form of rebellion. When others perform for validation, you build in solitude. When others chase applause, you chase alignment. That's not a weakness, that's strength no one can fake. Over time, it creates something rare, a presence that speaks louder than words, a calmness that disarms conflict, a steadiness that no chaos can shake. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence, about being fully aware of your own choices, even the smallest ones, especially the smallest ones, because those are the bricks that build your foundation. You don't need the world to see your discipline, you just need to live it. Every time you choose clarity over comfort, intention over impulse, calm over chaos, you're practicing greatness, quietly. The Stoics believe that virtue is its own reward, that a life well lived doesn't need an audience. Because the greatest transformation is internal, and internal work is, by nature, invisible. You don't need to broadcast your growth, you just need to walk it. Let your actions speak in rooms you never have to enter. Let your self-control ripple through situations that used to shake you. Let your quiet choices accumulate into something unshakable. So if you ever feel unseen, remember this: that's not failure. That's the focus. The world may not cheer when you say no to the wrong temptation. You may not notice when you stand firm in the face of pressure, but you notice. Your mind notices. Your discipline deepens. Your resilience sharpens. And with every invisible victory, you become the kind of person who no longer needs applause to act with integrity. Growth isn't a performance, it's a decision, made quietly, repeated daily. It's when you forgive without being asked, when you keep a promise no one remembers, when you show up for yourself. It would have been easier to quit. That kind of self-respect can't be given. It must be earned, and it's earned in private, where it counts. This is the discipline that frees you from needing permission, from waiting to be told you're enough, from relying on attention to feeling like you matter. Because when your choices are aligned with your core, it doesn't matter who's watching. You already know who you are, so don't chase the noise. Build in silence, live in order. Let your daily actions speak where your voice stays quiet, because the world doesn't shape your identity, your discipline does. And the strongest version of you is already being built in the quiet. Everything you want to build in life, clarity, confidence, calmness, begins with mental discipline. Not the kind enforced by others, but the kind you forge in silence when no one is watching. It's the choice to stay still when emotions rage. It's the decision to act with reason, not reaction. And it's the quiet courage to face discomfort, fear, and truth head on. Throughout this journey, we've explored how inner strength is not the result of one grand gesture, but the product of small, repeated decisions. Waking early, choosing silence over argument, write down your thoughts instead of suppressing them. These acts are simple, but they are not easy. They are deliberate. And when done with consistency, they create a mind that is steady, sharp, and untouchable. Emotional freedom, real self-respect, and resilience don't come from avoiding difficulty. They come from doing the hard things when they are least convenient. Mental discipline is the root of that power. It helps you stay focused under pressure, make better choices, and build a life that reflects who you truly are, not who your emotions push you to become in a moment of weakness. If there is one truth Stoicism teaches us, it is this: nothing outside you has the power to shake what you've built inside. If you've built it strong enough, and you build it one choice at a time. So start today, keep going tomorrow. Let your routine become your foundation. Let your discipline shape your peace. And remember, growth is not loud, it is quiet, consistent, and yours alone. Now, I invite you to share your story in the comments. What have you been practicing lately to strengthen your inner self? Let others learn from your experience and keep this path alive for everyone walking it.